In the twilight of May 2025, the political landscape of the United States was jolted by a revelation that transcended partisan lines. Former President Joe Biden had been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer, one that had already metastasized to his bones. The diagnosis, characterized by a Gleason score of 9 grade group 5, indicated a severe and advanced stage of the disease. Biden's medical team noted that the cancer was hormone-sensitive, offering some avenues for treatment, though surgery was deemed unfeasible due to the extent of metastasis. The announcement elicited a wave of responses from across the political spectrum. President Donald Trump expressed his sympathies, stating, "Melania Trump and I saddened to hear about Joe Biden's recent medical diagnosis. We extend our warmest and best wishes to Jill and the family, and we wish Joe a fast and successful recovery." Vice President Kamala Harris and her husband Doug Emhoff echoed similar sentiments, emphasizing Biden's resilience and expressing hope for his swift recovery. However, amidst the expressions of support, a discordant note was struck by Donald Trump Jr., the former president's eldest son. In a post shared on X, formerly Twitter, Trump Jr. questioned the role of Dr. Jill Biden, the former First Lady and an educator with a doctorate in education, in her husband's health journey. He wrote, "What I want to know is, how did Dr. Jill Biden miss stage 5 metastatic cancer? Or is this yet another cover-up?" It's worth noting that there is no such classification as stage 5 in cancer. Staging the highest stage is stage 4. Trump Jr.'s comments were met with criticism and concern. Medical experts expressed skepticism over how such an advanced stage of cancer could have gone undetected, especially considering the routine PSA blood test that can identify prostate cancer early. Doctors like Howard Foreman and Stephen Key found it inconceivable that Biden would not have shown elevated PSA levels prior to this diagnosis, noting that the timeline of progression typically spans several years. The discourse surrounding Biden's diagnosis and Trump Jr.'s remarks underscores the complex interplay between personal health and public scrutiny, especially for individuals in the political arena. As the nation grapples with the implications of this news, the conversation continues to evolve, reflecting broader themes of transparency, responsibility, and the human aspects of leadership. If the nation thought it could absorb the shock of a metastatic diagnosis with dignity and unified compassion, it had not accounted for Donald Trump Jr., an institution unto himself, a man unburdened by the weight of tact or nuance, whose thumb hovers over the post button like a vulture circling the last moral boundary. Where the elder Trump issued a presidential statement soaked in magnanimity, "Melania and I saddened." His son cracked open the silence with a crowbar of sarcasm. "Stage 5 metastatic cancer," he wrote, which, for the record, is not a thing unless one invents it for dramatic flourish or for attacking a woman with a doctorate in education for not being an oncologist. And yet here we are, on a platform formerly known as Twitter, now rebranded X, as if Elon Musk and the rest of civilization collectively forgot vowels. Trump Jr. shared a post from Dr. Stephen Key, who questioned how such an advanced cancer could have evaded early detection. The post referred to prostate cancer as the easiest cancer to diagnose when it starts. Simultaneously, it carried all the gentility of a folding chair to the face. Enter Dr. Jill Biden, wife, educator, public figure, and now, according to Don Jr., an accused accomplice in a malignant conspiracy. In his digital courtroom populated by retweets and rhetorical lynch mobs, he offered no evidence, just a snarling question. How did Dr. Jill miss stage 5? A question so loaded with insinuation, it might as well have come with the ticking clock and the mission impossible theme. It's important here to pause not for breath, but for clarity. Dr. Jill Biden is, as she has always been, a doctor of education. She does not perform prostate screenings between lessons on literary theory. And yet, the idea that her title obliges her to function as a diagnostic technician in the presidential bedroom was floated, reposted, and meant as though truth were optional and cruelty mandatory. But Trump Jr.'s post was not merely political theatre, it was a dissection of empathy in the age of outrage. The diagnosis, aggressive and grave, became the set piece for a stand-up routine performed in a collapsing democracy's open mic night. What was intended as a moment of national pause became instead a grotesque illustration of our ability to turn even the most solemn news into blood sport. And what of the public? America, wary and blue-lit by 24-hour news cycles, watched as comment sections ignited. There were those who rallied to Jill Biden's defense with the ferocity of constitutional scholars defending punctuation. There were others, many who nodded along with Trump Jr., their faith in conspiracy theories so robust that even a medical diagnosis could be mistaken for a cover-up. The irony, of course, is that at the very moment Donald Trump Sr. ascended into something resembling moral high ground offering Biden his sympathies with the somber language of a statesman, his son chose to rappel down the cliffs of decency into the partisan abyss. The Trump family, as always, delivers both the eulogy and the insult in the same breath. Meanwhile, the medical facts loomed large and unsympathetic. Biden's cancer was advanced, metastatic, and hormone-sensitive, a detail the White House quietly underscored, as if to say, yes, but not hopeless. The treatment plan would be complex, involving hormone therapies and close monitoring. The Gleason score, a cold numeral that speaks volumes in oncological circles, said 9. A score that leaves little room for optimism, but much room for speculation, especially among those who never needed a medical degree to play doctor on social media. Amid all this, Jill Biden remained composed, the same way she always has. Behind the sunglasses, beside the man with the receding smile and the unfailing handshake, her silence was both armor and response. She was not about to explain that education, while noble, does not come with a stethoscope. She did not tweet her own defense. She did not assemble a war room. She merely continued standing next to her husband, an act which, in an era where loyalty is measured by hashtags, may be the last sincere political gesture. And still, America asked, why now? Why this diagnosis, in this moment? Why is it that every personal truth, no matter how tragic, must first be passed through the meat grinder of partisan allegiance? This was no longer about cancer. It was about the tumor of discourse. As the news of Joe Biden's advanced prostate cancer metastasized across timelines and television screens, America entered a new diagnostic phase, one not of medicine, but of meaning. The president's body had become a metaphor, his diagnosis a national allegory. And no, not even tumors are safe from tribalism anymore. For the administration, this was supposed to be a human moment. Quiet, personal, a note from the physician, a nod from the press secretary, and perhaps a somber, carefully worded photo opportunity. Biden walking into Walter Reed Medical Center under overcast skies, with Jill by his side, hands clenched like old lovers or comrades in arms. The optics of resilience, the narrative of fighting spirit. Instead, it was immediately devoured by the algorithmic hyenas of political theater. And who, of course, should appear from behind the curtain of gravitas, but the unlicensed surgeons of social commentary, armed not with scalpels, but with cynicism. For them, this was not a disease. It was a storyline. Ratings, engagement, retweets. The notion that Biden's diagnosis could provoke sympathy or even respect was dismissed in favor of weaponizing his weakness, as if a frail prostate invalidated every policy, every handshake, every speech delivered through teleprompter tremors. We were no longer discussing a man. We were dissecting an archetype, the old king, his mortality no longer theoretical but clinical. And while Biden himself remained largely silence more presidential than many of his predecessors ever managed, the cacophony rose. Some called for transparency, as if biopsy results were public records. Others demanded he step down, as though cancer, like scandal, was grounds for resignation. In the midst of this operetta, Donald Trump Sr. did what only he could. He played statesman. Like a man attending the wedding of his ex with suspicious generosity, he offered condolences. Melania and I are saddened. And somewhere in the phrasing, perhaps accidentally, was the tone of a man who once knew how it felt to be human, even if briefly. It was a message that confused his own base, who had come for blood, but were handed bouquets. But his son, oh yes, the heir apparent of online indignation, refused to play along. Donald Trump Jr. did not offer flowers. He offered accusations, questions without answers, and answers without questions. Is this another cover-up? he asked, as if the presidency had been turned into an episode of House, MD, and Jill Biden had been moonlighting as Dr. Foreman. It was not just irresponsible. It was performance art. This is where the American discourse now lives, in the disease space between real pain and imagined conspiracies, between a doctor's chart and a meme, between the sincere and the sarcastic. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris, always the understudy, rarely the lead, entered stage left with a message of strength and solidarity. She called Biden a fighter, as if he were entering a ring and not a treatment plan. Strength, resilience, optimism, the holy trinity of American illness. But even her words, sanitized and correct, were met with suspicion by corners of the internet that see every kindness as a kind of soft coup. Doug Emhoff, the first gentleman of quiet smiles, echoed her words. And still, the public was unconvinced. Could they believe that these people actually cared about Joe Biden, the man? Or was this simply the standard operating procedure of power, perform concern until the polls stabilize? The question of succession hung in the air like a rumor you're not supposed to hear but can unhear. Would Harris take over? Could she win an election on short notice? Would Gavin Newsom's hair glisten its way into contention? The whispers were not about policy, nor governance, nor experience. They were about viability, marketability, the shallow realities of the American political theater. But lost in all this intrigue was one glaring, perhaps tragic, truth. Joe Biden, whether one loves him or loathes him, is still someone's father, someone's husband, someone's friend, and now, someone's patient. Somewhere in a secure room, he is talking to his oncologist, weighing options, confronting the same mortal math that millions of Americans face every day, except his prognosis is played out on prime time. And Jill Biden, unfairly yanked into this diagnosis as an accessory to delay detection, continues to endure it all with the silence of a woman who has been underestimated too many times to waste time explaining herself. Her doctorate is no shield. Her resume is no refuge. In the public eye, she has become either Florence Nightingale or Lady Macbeth, depending on your political diet. And yet, she continues to smile, pose, support, and survive. This is the paradox of American power. Its most human moments are its most politicized. There is no private grief, no unobserved pain. Every cough is a press release. Every diagnosis, a referendum. And while Biden undergoes scans and treatments, while his team balances policy briefings with oncology appointments, the country marches on, half in empathy, half in mockery, and the rest in monetization. The final part of this saga still waits behind the curtain. The recovery, the re-election bid, the obituary, the miracle, the resignation, all of them are possible. All of them are whispered, but none of them are known. What is known is this: America has never been good at vulnerability. It is a country that prefers triumph to treatment, victory to vulnerability. And yet, it is led, at least for now, by a man who is both president and patient. A leader with a chart in one hand and the nuclear codes in the other. America now finds itself caught between two aging titans, one pale in a hospital wing, the other orange and fist-pumping in a hotel ballroom. President Biden's cancer, though medical in nature, is consumed as metaphor, his illness seen as a symbol of national decline, his treatments read like edits to the script of American power. Donald Trump Jr. marks from the wings, asking why Dr. Jill missed stage 5 cancer, turning a private diagnosis into a public inquisition. Meanwhile, Trump Sr. plays the magnanimous statesman, offering warm wishes with one hand while sharpening campaign slogans with the other. Kamala Harris begins to glow under the spotlight of contingency. Consultants poll. Donors fidget. The press decodes Biden's every movement like a papal conclave watching for smoke. Yet, amid the theater, the truth is simple and human. A man is ill, and a country doesn't know what to do with that. Governance becomes triage, and legacy becomes prognosis. America, perhaps, is in its own kind of remission, wounded, wary, but still pretending everything is normal. Because the show must go on, even when the lead actor is on radiation break.